I call the Washington County Board of Education meeting to order. I'd like to ask Mr. Ward to lead us in prayer and Ms. Fleener lead us in our pledge.
Yes, sir. Does he know it? Let's pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you for the sunshine and the heat and just, Lord, we just thank you so much for our blessings. God, we just come to you tonight to ask for your wisdom and knowledge and discernment in the decisions that we must make tonight. Help us to remember that these will affect generations to come. Lord, we love you and we worship you. In Christ's name we pray, amen.
Amen. Join in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay, first on our agenda tonight is reorganization of the board. Anybody have recommendations?
I make a motion that we, Mike Masters as chairman and, what is it, nomination ceased? What is it, how do I say that?
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
You're gonna make a speech here?
Voting open.
I'll speech out right now.
Yours opening up.
No, it's not.
How do you know?
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan, yes. All agree?
Thank you.
Masters is chair.
Thank you. Thank you all. Next, on our agenda is vice chair. We have any nominations, please.
Nominate Annette Buchanan.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Discussion. Let's vote again, please, Jennifer.
Voting is open. Mr. Hammond, how do you know?
Yes.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Buchanan? Yes, it says it's on me. It says it's on, so I'm trying to verify. Okay. All agree?
Thank you. Congratulations. Next is our really hard one to decide is our clerk.
Make a motion, Jennifer Moore continue to be our clerk
Second.
Discussion.
and do everything else.
Third. Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Absolutely is not on here, Miss Jennifer.
Ms. Buchanan, how do you know?
Yes.
LLC.
You're in charge of that, right?
Congratulations.
Next is our parliamentarian, currently Mr. Boyd.
Make a motion, Mr. Boyd continue being a parliamentarian, if you will.
A second.
Discussion. Let's vote again, please, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Yes.
All agree.
Thank you. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Next is our FRN representative, currently Ms. Buchanan.
I make a motion we leave Annette as that. Second.
Discussion. Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Voting open. All agree.
Thank you. And our next one is our TLN representative, which is currently Mr. Hammonds.
I make a motion that Mr. Hammonds remain the TLN representative. I think he's done an excellent job.
I agree with you. We have a second. Discussion. Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Not you, baby.
Voting's open.
David does do a good job on that.
Very much.
We do appreciate it. It's not an easy job.
All agree.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone. Congratulations. All right, next is our special recognition of our school year 2023 retirees. I just want to tell you all thank you again. And I think Mr. Boyd has has something to give y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Started had the opportunity to thank all of our retirees. I just want to do it. I mean, we can't say thank you enough for the service that you provided. You know, not only to our students, but to your colleagues, and certainly participate in a process where, you know, you've been part of building this school system, and certainly as you leave it in a good spot based on your efforts and your service. So thank you all. So we just have a little bit of, I get the privilege of calling you up here, giving you a small token of our appreciation, shaking your hand, and saying thank you to each one of you one more time. Appreciate all of you that were able to come to the reception, each one of you in the room. As I call out tonight the names, even though we have some that weren't able to join us, I will call them also. I think just in a public meeting, certainly giving them the honor of saying their name out loud and recognizing their service is something that we should do. So with that, I want to begin with our first person on the list I have in front of me. Mrs. Teresa Aubrey, Fall Branch Elementary School, and 15 years of experience in Washington County. Let me back up and pause there. So in adding up all of this year's, I guess, graduating class, retirees, a total of 612.5 years of experience. And, you know, when these types of ceremonies and recognitions happen, and such large numbers like that, I mean, you know, as an organization in a community, we're losing a lot of, even though we've gained a lot in the years of your service, we're losing a lot of that experience as you move on to your next stage of your life. So certainly wish you well, but you know, over 600 years of experience represented on this list. So Miss Aubrey at Fall Branch, Jeannie Barnes, school nutrition, 18 years. Penny Bennett, bookkeeper at David Crockett High School, 25 years. Susan Burt, bus driver in our transportation department, 7 years. And Paula Campbell, Ridgeview Elementary School, faculty member. Thank you very much. Thank you. Our paparazzi right here. Scott.
1, 2, 3.
Let's see, here she is. Miss Kathy Cox, 28 years. Here we go. Yes, ma'am, thank you for coming back. We didn't know if you'd come
1,
back.
2, 3.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your service. We have Miss Marianne Crow, transportation bus driver, 22 years. Glenda Crow, Jonesboro Middle School faculty, 35 years. Mr. Jerry Day, David Crockett High School, semi-retired bus driver, coach.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Teresa Gibson, school nutrition, 31 years. Sherry Graham, Daniel Boone High School, 9 years. We got 2 photographers.
She's pretty.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Kathy Ketron, Fall Branch Elementary School, librarian, 12 years. Miss Tammy King, Boones Creek Elementary School, 17 years. Larry Kiker, transportation bus driver, 11 years. Yes, sir, thank you.
Larry.
Got Miss
1, 2, 3.
thank you, sir.
I got somebody to throw up my wife now.
She can throw it back.
Wait a minute, we have security.
We have recognized Gary Lyons, maintenance, 30 years. Vicki Miller, food service, 33 years. Janae Peters, grade, elementary school, teacher, 29 years. Sheila Rhodes, Boones Creek Elementary School, 28 years.
Two.
Melinda Ryan, Sulphur Springs Elementary School. And if I recall, the old Boones Creek Elementary School for several years before that. 37 years. Thank you. Gwen Scott, Lamar Elementary School, 37 years.
One, two, three.
David Shell, Daniel Boone High School, CTE teacher, 28 years. Ava Shepherd, transportation bus driver, 11 years. Shona Stutes, Jonesboro Middle School instructional assistant, 29 years. Chris Tillman, system-wide speech teacher, 20 years. And then Ronnie Tipton, food service, 32 years. We got it.
Oh, yeah.
You won't break it.
One, two, three.
And thank you all for being here. I don't know if any board members want to say anything, but again, I just want to end my part one more time, just saying thank you all. Wish you the best of luck. As I told you downstairs, I'm observing and learning from each of you. Someday I'll be in your position as far as having an opportunity to be considered a retiree, and so I'm gonna learn from the best. So thank you.
I'd just like to thank you all once again for your time, your service, and the dedication you gave us over the years. And the little reception we had is just a very small token that we could do for you. And I just appreciate each and every one of you. So, Mr. Walters.
Just want to say thank you. Some of you have affected me in my life, and some of you have affected my children in their life, and generations and generations and generations. I want you to remember that you're not forgotten. You are a vital, important part to our communities, and we may come to you for advice in the future. So please just be available. Thank you again.
Mr. Rankin.
Mr. Tanner.
I'd like to thank everyone too, but y'all look too young, so come back.
Mr. Tanner.
Just want to say thank you again for all those that are here tonight and the ones that are watching online that have retired, but we just thank y'all. I mean, there's been generations, thousands of kids you all have impacted. It's just we can't say thank you enough. And I know some of them have directly affected my kids, and for that I'm very thankful. So thank you.
So if you all,
No, I was just gonna thank y'all. I've been sitting here for 18 years and I can't believe how the time has flown by. It's just flown by. That's all you can say. So, thank y'all.
And like I said downstairs, y'all's retired, so you have nowhere to go, nothing to do. You're welcome to stay at our board meeting. One more time if you like. That's what I told Whitney.
Chevy covered Johnson City tonight.
The one that's saying that.
Yes, for day.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because we switched ours.
Yeah.
yeah, we have one at the same time.
Okay, next on our agenda is our public comment section, and there's no one signed up, so we'll move right along. Next is the Lewis Group Architects. Appreciate y'all coming once again, and you sure you don't move me to the end of the agenda?
I think we're in a good spot. We could have walked out with everybody else, maybe you wouldn't see us, but.
In the bulk or
Yeah, that one.
this one?
Yep, the PDF there. You know, we don't really have anything like really new to present. We were gonna bring this as a visual just to kind of, you know, there's some drawings in here, some of the renderings that you saw before, some that developed a little more. So anyway, I think the biggest thing, we just have a few items, you know, sort of as an update that we're, you know, the big thing now is, Dr. Adams. I think it advertised today, right? Do you know?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, so it's out, the athletics for both high schools, they're out advertised, so, and I'll just kind of want to update, you know, I sent a advertisement for bid, which is what ran in the paper and wherever you all have to run it to advertise. So just key dates on that. So the bid opening date is Thursday, October the 5th, which, you know, it's be here before you know it. It's roughly a month from now. So less than a month from now. And that's at 2:00 p.m. Eastern time.
Excuse me, out there's Mr. Adams, if you need.
Yeah, I was just saying, we ran the advertisement, right?
Put it out tomorrow.
Put it out tomorrow. Okay, perfect. I think that's perfect. And then there's also a pre-bid meeting that's going to be Tuesday, September the 19th. And what we're doing is, you know, we've all talked about this. A lot of what we want to do is try to gain some economies of scale, try to get contractors to bid both projects. They may not. You know, there may be ones who only have an interest in bidding one. And I'll talk about that in a minute, sort of how we're doing the bid form and how we're going to do the bids to sort of help support that. But anyway, September 19th is a pre-bid meeting, so it'll be at 10:00 a.m. at Daniel Boone High School, then lunch in between, and we'll do David Crockett's at 1 p.m. So, you know, hopefully, like I say, that getting them on the same date, hopefully there's, you know, multiple contractors that'll go to both places. I mean, that's the hope and the intent. We're continuing to try to talk to contractors. You know, you all have heard us say this a bunch too. Right size contractors. You know, everybody's busy. There's always a little bit of concern about not getting enough bidders and creating enough competition. We got some good news today. I think Todd was talking with some folks downstairs about just a regrowth project we had for Cott County schools up in Newport. There were 10 bidders on it. So, I mean, that's good to hear. Especially when we've done some rough projects lately that there were one or two. So hopefully things are getting, you know, maybe this is a favorable time. You know, a lot of times as things go, you know, into the fall, a lot of contractors are looking for work. And just, you know, again, it depends on how busy people are. We all know, you know, this is really, and we're going to be really emphasizing this in the pre-bid at both schools. You know, we all know that, you know, this is really tightly wedged in here between end of this football season and the start of next football season. So we know we have a very limited time frame. You know, we've been told by a number of people, and a lot of people feel like, yeah, we could do it. You know, there's always weather, there's always, you know, supply chain issues that, you know, I just want to be realistic. I don't want to be negative about it. I mean, I have every reason to be optimistic about, you know, us meeting those deadlines. But anyway, it's all that to say, it's really important that we get started with this as soon as we can. You know, we have a demolition project to start that. So I think in some ways that works well, because while they're getting a lot of subs lined up and paperwork done and bonds and everything and all that has to be done, you know, that, you know, the demolition portion of that, I mean, it'll be under the prime contract, but hopefully that'll be going, you know, as soon as it possibly can, right? So I think that's key. And again, you know, we're going into, you know, late October, November to do that, and you know, it's not a great time of year to be doing site work and that kind of thing. But you know, hopefully, again, the more we can push a contractor to get work done as soon as possible before we get into like, especially January and February, that'll be key. So, you know, that's a big thing that advertised. Those are those key dates. And I would invite, you know, we've talked to everybody about this too. You know, everybody has relationships, so I think, you know, the right kind of right-sized contractors. If any of if you all know, I mean, feel free, you know, let us know, and we can reach out. I think we just need. I think there's going to be great little projects. They're not little projects either. They're going to be great projects, and I think we just need to really push this to a lot of good contractors and try to get the very best for a really good cost. You know, and all those dates, I think the other one, I know Mr. Boyd has talked to you all about this, but we had a discussion about sort of where that date lands for the board's review and final approval of that, and that had fallen on, well, we had said it October 9th. There were some discussions about moving it up or moving it back. Again, in the interest of getting this out of the gate as soon as we can, we wanted to not move it back. So we just decided to leave it at October 9th. So that's where that date is. And the only other thing I would say with respect to this is about the bid form and what I was talking about earlier of trying to get multiple bidders interested in both jobs. So the way the bid form is written is that we're basically going to have a base bid for both projects. And I'm hoping, you know, I know there's going to be some contractors who, you know, let's just use really easy numbers. If Crockett comes in at 3 million and Boone comes in at 3 million, just good round numbers. There are going to be contractors who add those up and say the overall, you know, for if they bid both of them together is $6 million, they're just going to add that up. But we believe there's also a possibility of gaining some economies of scale. You know, if you do both projects, you might share a project manager, some of those general conditions can possibly get reduced somewhat. You know, and again, that's out of our hands, but I think we're at least going to try to put that out there in a way that if the contractor comes in and says, hey, you know, we can benefit on some of these economies of scale, and even if it saves you $50,000 or $100,000 or, you know, maybe more, it's worth trying that, right? You know, because I don't think we're doing anything that's going to decrease the quality of the project. We're just trying to make it a little bigger, more lucrative project for a particular contractor. So anyway, so that'll be the base bid, and then, you know, alternate one will be one of the high schools, and alternate two will be the other high school, you know, so that somebody can bid on one or both or, you know, whatever. So anyway, that's kind of the strategy, and I think it's just, again, in the interest of getting, you know, the best bid for the projects. I don't know if you want to go through any of those.
Yeah.
Anything to say or through any of the slides?
I'd just say, I mean, at this point, is there any questions about what Paul's just talked about?
If you have somebody that bids on both, and you also have two individual ones that are the same price, is it better to go with the one person to do both rather than two individuals if the cost is the same?
It's a good question. I mean, if the cost is the same, you know, I think.
Right, depending on the contractor.
Yeah, I think there's a few.
Evaluate that a little
Yeah, there's a few factors, you know, that I mean, obviously, the one thing we'd have to do first is just vet their monetary limits and their license and all that stuff and make sure. But all things being relatively equal, I think we would just, we might just have to get with you guys and make a judgment call on something like that.
I think we need to pay attention to their workload as well.
Well, this one especially, it's critical, right?
Right.
Because we know the very finite deadline. That's the other thing I failed to mention too, is that and Mr. Boyd and Dr. Adams and us were talking about this the other day, but just really being very, very clear about the dates, the deadlines, and I think, we were going to talk more about liquidated damages. I mean, we can change that in an addendum. And in fact, as I told them the other day, I like putting certain things like that in an addendum because it kind of puts it front and center. It's not buried down in, a spec book that's this thick, and you put it out there in the body of the addendum and everybody gets the message loud and clear, that, hey, liquidated damages for this thing is, it's $500 a day. Mr. Boyd suggested, you do something like $500 a day for like the first 30 days, and then maybe after that it can jump to $1,000 or something to really just, get the point across, right? So, really.
Well, let me ask you this, if you're sitting here and we're getting, Joe Blow got Boone, and he's cheap bid on Crockett, do y'all think they're good enough to do both projects at the same time, or are we?
I think that's
should we, because
it's a good question too. I think it's another thing we'd have to.
We need both projects going at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I don't need them to just come in here and play a little bit here and then go over here and play a little bit. They need work and work.
That's right.
So
now I think the other thing, these are good questions. I think the other thing is if you don't, like the strategy of doing sort of both of them together and then the two of them separately, we could change that in an addendum and just reissue the bid form, and that's easy.
What do y'all think? I mean,
Well, I think they need to investigate, some people are big enough to do both.
I was gonna say,
Well,
it really depends on
But
the
then,
contract.
yeah, and like you
Whit,
said.
what do you think? I mean,
Just like I said, we just have to see who it is, if they have the capacity to do both at once, and what their workload is and their ability.
That's right. It boils down to the subs too. There might be a lot of the same subs, your electrical subs, your mechanical and plumbing. There's a lot of plumbing, in these jobs, right? And site and, concrete contractor, there's a lot of work there. So, again, in my mind, I'm thinking there's some economies of scale there, if they're using a lot of those same subs, and, both projects are different because the sites are different, but they're also kind of in concept, they're kind of the same, right? And that was always a goal of yours and ours and everything, right? So,
And that's why we wanted a little bit of time, because we talked about, moving some dates around and getting them closer, but we wanted a little bit of time so that we would get bids in and then have 3 or 4 or 5 days to vet those bids, have discussion, and come together with the board, talk about it, and make a good decision at that point. If we push that to where it's get the bids on the 5th, and because we talked about this, get the bids on the 5th and have a meeting on the 6th, then that's really pushing it. We want to make sure we have the time to really go through each of the bids and what are the best scenarios for the board.
Yeah. Thank you, I appreciate y'all looking at this and looking at the depth, looking forward to see what comes out on the 9th.
Yeah,
And
like I said,
run.
I think these have been really fun projects. I mean, they're, and I think they're going to be really good. And I think
We brought some stuff for you to look at, because the last time that we were here, we were a little bit further ahead on Boone than where we were on Crockett. So we're going to show you Boone again.
mainly in the renderings.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
you'll see the full complement of all the renderings for both.
But we'll jump through these pretty quick, and we'll look at Crockett, because now we have more on the rendering side for Crockett as well, and then just a couple more things after that. So, starting with Daniel Boone here.
Yeah, well, you guys have been seeing this, but you can kind of see the scope area. This is just sort of the overall site plan, and the concrete. There's a lot of utility. I say a lot. There's quite a bit of utility work in here. Some grading. Maintaining ADA accessibility throughout. And of course, what I'm saying here for Boone will go for Crockett. It's again, the sites are just different, but the overall concept is sort of applied to both facilities. So in the next, if you want to go on to the next one, just sort of the building plans, so you get a little better.
Takes a second to load up, because it's a big file.
Fuzzy there, but sort of where on the top where you see the grandstand. Again, you'll see Crockett's in a minute, but very, very, very similar. Grade is just a little different because the grade is different at each facility, but you can see where the restroom facilities, the concessions, storage, and those kind of things in the ancillary buildings beneath, and kind of the promenade in that plaza that connects parking and entry to, again, we always had in our mind that this possibility of creating these athletic complexes at these high schools, and I certainly think that, they're shaping up to be, for me, well beyond what you see in most places around East Tennessee. I think these could be
Some of them last another 50 years like these have, so it's incredibly exciting. So
Yeah, these are just sections and elevations of the bleachers, here in a minute, we'll kind of get in something that you've seen a little bit of, like in the renderings, but maybe we'll focus a little more on as we finished up the construction documents, and really getting into the nitty gritty of detailing these pieces with these kind of branded walls with the glazed blocks. So if you want to keep going, we'll go through some renderings first. You all have seen most of these. There's probably some tweaks on some of these. This is an aerial view looking, from kind of the entry side. Of course, you see Boone's football field in the kind of the background there.
I did have a phone call yesterday from one of the retired teachers that used to be wrestling coaches. And for years, they've always tried to find a place to put their mats. Will there be anything in here that we're not going to be utilizing at first underneath the stands?
Just in terms of storage of the mats? Is that what you're
No, there need a place to actually take the mats. And I told them what we was doing, and of course, the first question I asked was there any place that they could put their mats? I don't know. That's what I would ask.
Well, really the amount of interior building that we're building here, they're really just those kind of long, narrow, that they're mostly restrooms, but there's some storage in there and concessions. So it pretty much fills up that space. Yeah.
Phase one, I would have to say no.
That's
I don't
what
believe
my
there's
thought was.
anything with what you mentioned underneath the bleachers, the facility that we have there are all utility, restrooms.
Yeah, support spaces for the stadium.
To access the stadium. Future phases, there's still future phases, they can be looked at then.
And that's what I explained to him yesterday, I knew kind of what was in phase one, but I said that maybe in phase 2 or 3 on down the road. So.
Right.
So how many restrooms are they under that thing?
So
Latrines?
what did we end up with? Yeah, as you know, there was a number that the plumbing code required, and we didn't go there. And I think you all remember that even the state fire marshal, we got, that was some time back, and I think we reported out then that this would not have to be, because it's not specifically a Group E occupancy, it does not have to be reviewed by the state fire marshal. And the reason I say that, Keith, is because, they're not gonna nail us on, they don't have the ability to nail us about not meeting the plumbing code, and we all know we didn't want to spend a lot of extra money when obviously you've got a lot more restroom facilities than you have currently at both high schools. I mean, right, it's not even close. And I think this will serve you very well without, as the term I like to use, not building the church for Easter Sunday, right?
18, looks like 18.
Yeah, I think there are 18 women and 11 in the men's side, or 12. That's right.
That's 6 times what we have, so that's good.
Yeah. And really close, centrally located, you can see where the pass through, you got the ones on the ends, obviously, to get on the bleachers, but you've also got sort of those third points where you've got the connection to get into the grandstand. Those ramp up into that 4 foot high level, so you're automatically up 4 feet, in terms of watching the football or soccer game or whatever. So anyway, just going back through these renderings, that's sort of that promenade and plaza that connects there at Boone. Boone has more room in between the football stadium and the baseball field, whereas at Crockett, and I really like what we're doing at Crockett because, you got that fence there in the way, you can't, when you're walking behind the stadium, I mean, that edge of the stadium kind of, basically it's the edge of the baseball field and there's a fence and you can't even walk there. Well, this whole thing proposes to open that up, plus the new bleachers aren't quite as deep as what's there, so you're going to have a lot more room there and be a lot more welcoming space, whether that's for football or, baseball or softball, whatever. So
Go to Crockett, let's look at that.
yeah, we're headed there.
Well,
There's your branding wall on the end there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and you'll see a drawing that's part of the construction document. It's desk shot.
And we're tearing down the old concession, right?
Yes. So this is what that branding wall looks like with the B for Boone.
I do have a question on that right there. We had a mural painted of the soldier. Is that going to be gone away? Or?
I'm glad you said that because we had that conversation the other day with Mr. Boyd and Dr. Adams too, and there's been a lot of discussion about it, and again, we can get something in an addendum. Right now, we don't have anything in there specifically to salvage it. I suggested, and I think others thought maybe it was a good idea, that we get like a photographer to do a high-res sort of photo image, I mean, at the very least, so that at least documents that, for not a lot of money. And then, the reality is salvaging that painted on the block would be, we can even put that in there as an, as an alternate in there if you want to, but my fear is that for them to salvage that on CMU
I'm
block,
just curious what.
I think it'd be really expensive. I mean, so it just depends on how important that is to, I mean, it's going to be really important to a number of people, some people it may not matter as much, I don't know. I think it is worthwhile to do the photo documentation, that you do something. We had suggested possibly even then it just becomes maybe a framed image that gets incorporated somewhere on the building or into the project.
I think it'd be good to have it inside where you walked into them 3 outlets coming in or 4 outlets coming in, and having something like you had a wrap or whatever to where that could be incorporated. That way everybody could still see it. Because right now the reason where it's at is because you have to see that when you come by.
Yeah.
So, now that you're going to have separate places to come in, I think that would be good to have it, a picture or something to where you have to see that every time you come into that, another stadium, so that'd be nice. Because I don't think you can salvage it. I mean,
I don't either.
But
I was just curious when I seen the B, I said, well, I know what's there now, and I didn't know if there was anything.
is that something our imaging department could do, or?
I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, it would be pretty high-end skill to do that. They're capable, I'm sure. So.
I don't know, I don't even know how to do that.
That's been years ago, but
Yeah.
it'd be nice if we could have, and we'll work on it on our side to get that scanned in or however that works to get that done, because it would be nice to.
Well, at least you have documentation of it, and then you can use it however you want to. Gives you that option, right?
Right.
Moving forward.
No, soldier's chair we discussed as well, be incorporated somewhere in the stadium.
Yeah. Another thing I'll say about, so this, trying to get a lot of mileage out of this is a branding wall, right? School color, it's the red, that's actually a glazed red block. It's graffiti resistant, and you saw from those renderings where that gets incorporated very, minimally, but I think to a pretty good effect and get a lot of mileage out of it. So, again, the branding color, that's actually like a steel fabrication powder coated with the B. You're going to see a very similar thing at Crockett, with that logo and using the school color of the gold block used there. You'll see that in just a minute. So here we are, Crockett. So again, site plan, similar concept, just different site constraints, right? So you got the same promenade, there's steps that come down, where your existing field house is right now. where you step down. There's still a handicapped accessible path that's basically a slope that's less than 1 to 20, less than 5% to get from that upper level off the parking lot into the, into the sort of the, call it the plaza area or that promenade of the stadium. Go on. So similarly, it's a little bit dark out there, but
It looks a lot better.
yeah, okay. The grandstand, and then, again, same complement of the three structures that come in underneath, and restrooms, same numbers, restrooms, concessions, some storage, some utility type space. The only difference there is, again, the grades are just different, so it fit to the side at Crockett a little differently than it did at Boone. So you start seeing elevations, you start seeing how that color gets incorporated into the elevations of the stadium, at the backside. And then you're not really seeing the color there, but you all can see in the renderings here in a minute, where we've got the color on the seating, and we've got some color in the bleacher, not just the mill finish of the aluminum, which is most of the seating, but some of the backing and risers are a different color. So here's kind of that similar aerial view. You can see what I was talking about connecting that all the way through. These bleachers don't go back as deep as the existing ones, so that obviously gave us some latitude to be able to create that access, and again, the same kind of athletics, kind of complex feel. So it connects all the way down. You're headed straight toward the baseball dugout. We're not changing any of the grades, obviously, in the baseball field, so there's a little bit of a higher curb where we can actually, because this grade falls away, so it's almost 2 feet the way it is currently. You don't really think about it when you're there, but it's almost 2 feet of difference between this side of the bleacher currently and when you get on the other side. But what we did is we raised that curb along with our civil engineer to basically make, we got some cross slope just for drainage, but it's basically flat, that whole piece there, and then that curb takes up the slack. From the football field side, again, the gold seats that are in the middle section, this is all based on Southern, just like Boone's, it's based on Southern Bleachers layout. And, that's always a tricky thing because we can't make proprietary specs. So, we list other manufacturers, but it is so geared toward, we know we have numbers from them. We got those numbers. So, our hope is if those numbers don't really deviate much, then we feel like we should be on our budget, right? So, but there's so much that's so tightly knitted into their system, that just from a design perspective and making this thing work out, it would obviously be best if, and they're a great manufacturer, right? I mean, it would work out best if they get the bid. So, but we can't just give it to them.
Crockett is not as steep as what it's at Boone? Is that what you're saying?
In terms of the grade, is that what you're talking?
The seating?
No, it's the same. It's the same.
Same bleacher?
Yeah. It's the same. That's right. What I was talking about where it fits to the site, you know how Boone is, it's much higher on that backside, so we actually have to do some work and have like a lower plaza to make that transition to be able to get into it.
Neither one of the projects will interfere with baseball when baseball season starts.
Right. They won't be on. I think you got a good logical place at those existing fences for a construction fence, and I don't see that being a problem. Okay. So this was just a view that Ginger threw in there that was pulled way out, just sort of showing the first part of that axis, kind of when you come off of those stairs. So it's a little bit of a distorted view, but anyway, just trying to get the idea. We just have those post lights, that kind of emphasize that axis in there, I think.
Well, Mike, you made a comment about tearing the bleachers, the concession stand down. What are we doing at Crockett? Are we tearing that concession stand down? Because or softball uses it for,
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
so are we gonna have to go all the way down there to the concession stand during softball game?
Probably.
I mean, I'm just,
That was the
it's,
plan.
it's a question.
You're talking about the concessions that's at?
For softball.
At softball.
At Crockett.
Yeah.
During softball season, you ain't gonna have one, just, or have to have it somewhere else. Cause that building's gonna be gone, they'll be in the construction zone. Once it gets done, they can get their concessions right there where the football does.
Do they have, how close is baseball concession to?
Baseball's on the other end, way on the other end now.
Well, that's true.
So you had
And we don't have a restroom.
wall at Boone, the one that you were showing us with the red brick.
Got it here.
Where is that? Okay. That's
It's
what-
here.
It's on that, go
This,
Go
yeah,
to
let
the
me just
next-
move on.
Yeah, we'll go on to
There's
that.
a little something wrong with that rendering, so.
Yeah,
There
so
you go.
that's the one at Crockett. So it's the same glazed block, but it's,
The wall doesn't go all the way across, right? Cause in
Yes.
other drawings, the wall doesn't come out past like
That's
that
right.
picture that.
that was what was,
Wrong.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, that ramp is much shorter, so it's
Yeah,
not,
the
doesn't
fence-
come in front of it.
Early on.
You're very astute. We were
Coming
really
down
trying
now.
that had changed because there was a
Yeah.
point really, probably, well, even last time you all saw the renderings, but probably a month and a half ago that when we were doing the renderings, I'm like, guys, we can't do that, can't do this nice bending wall, and then put something in front of it. So it's been changed for quite a while, it's just that rendering hasn't
Is
changed.
it back like underneath?
It is the leading, go back to the plan, that might be the best place to, and I'll show you
One
exactly.
place, it's covered up.
Yeah, but it's not, that's what I'm saying, that ramp got pulled back and moved, so it's
So it wouldn't be
completely,
covered up.
it's completely in view, so go back one more to the plan. So I can just show you in the plan, it's on the leading, on both projects, it's on the leading edge of that first building, so
Actually
So
look
it-
like the same.
it's exactly the same place, yes, and it's right there on that
Okay,
edge.
because that one looked like it was sunk in, and the
Yeah.
other one didn't look like it was sunk in.
It was a
That's-
shadow too.
You're right, on the rendering, it's wrong, and we'll fix those, but we just haven't had time to fix. And the thing is, yeah, you could look in the construction well, you can see it right there, because that's the plan for it. You can see that is no longer there
Right.
in that location, so, yeah. Anyway, yeah, obviously, we don't want to go to that effort and I think those pieces are going to be really, really,
I do
really
too.
nice, and we do not want to cover them
And I
up.
saw it covered like that, and I was like,
Yeah.
there's no point in that, because that's a picture place. That's where they're gonna take their senior pictures and things like that.
That's right.
And that's the only place that's wrong, is right there, everything else.
Yeah.
See that picture right there? It's covered.
Yeah, it's covered up right
But the
now.
next
It
one
just,
too, that's
by the
where I
time,
saw it.
you remember, you all met Elizabeth last time we were up here, so by the time she finished that, that's when we caught it. Yeah, she retired.
She went back to
But I'm glad something you mentioned there too. So the other thing we're incorporating into this project, is to go back like that one, is the arm, mounting the banner arms. So not only does that give you a festive kind of, you can change those out, say like if it's homecoming at either school, you might have a banner, and we're not putting all these.
Seniors down there.
And that was,
can do-
when you said that made me, reminded me of that, somebody said, oh, because, we know every high school does it a little differently, but, I think there's maybe 14 of those at each, because it's just based on every one of the columns of the stadium structure, and that might not be enough, but, you could have the parents, buy one of their kid, right? And put them on that.
Some schools do that with other
Yeah,
ones.
right, similar things.
Well, I
like
mean,
that,
we
so.
put ours on the back of the bleachers, with zip ties. But to have something like that, I mean, that's pretty special there. Now, hopefully it's enough, but, it may not be, but,
Some of yours be bloody, and some of yours walking.
right? But we
Yeah,
also we have those at our school on the light poles, and it's just a branding place. It's the name of the high school, the colors, everything's really nice, and you do that right down through
So there's
there.
incorporation of some things,
Plenty
with
of
some
options.
changeability and flexibility that, that again, the banner arms are gonna be part of the bid, but then it's just a matter of that vinyl banner. Now, we've also done, go to one of the views where you see the seating side of the stadium. With that one. So we're also doing, it's not really well represented, but we're doing that on the back side here too, where those are vinyl banners. There's like four 20-foot banners that are at the very top. So one thing is that guardrail is a chain link. So from my perspective, it's just a grommeted banner, but that also gives you another possibility. Like we are including these in the bid, so there will be, and there's notes in there that the artwork isn't determined, so that the architect will provide, but that way we'll work with you guys, for that to be whatever it needs to be, whether that's a color, or if it, whatever it needs to say. But I think it also gives, all these high school football stadiums have advertisements and things, so it might give you an opportunity, a little bit of a revenue stream to print advertisements and stuff like that in the future too. So, like just for some.
So you can enter these stadiums through the back or from the sides, correct?
That's right. Zoom out or go to that one where it's still a little dark.
I thought I saw it.
So, and these are, I'm gonna say the word vomitory again, so don't hold it against me. But the vomitories, those in the middle, sort of at those third points, they're coming out right there, and then there's ramps and steps, so you've got, and these, the great thing about these is the way we've worked those out, they're also ADA wheelchair compliant, handicap accessible. So you can there's multiple ways of getting into the stadium, the seating part of the stadium with accessible.
Now, where would the ticket booth and the public hearing?
So go back to the side plan. So we'll start with Crockett and just walk through.
Which, I mean, they don't matter either school.
So right now for phase one, if you remember back to the master plan, we had some changes there, but right now, we're doing grandstand, we're doing the flat work, we're doing utilities, we're moving the lights, right, all those kind of things. So it's still going to be roughly in the same place. You're going to come, it's just you're going to have a concrete sort of entry plaza, if you will, that.
And both schools they'll enter the
It's
same
two
place.
stacks, like the little
Right
ticket
there.
booth there stacks.
And we heard from the ADs, the day we were out there about some of the parking. So we did just add a little bit at both places to increase some handicap parking and rework just minimally some of the parking there. So I think for the better, for some better, closer handicap parking, and actually added some spaces there that are close. So we were able to do that, and you see that represented right there to the right side of that sort of entry plaza, if you will. And then if you want to go back to Boone, I mean, it's good questions. I mean, it's not cooperating. So in Boone, you're going to have an opportunity, on that lower parking to come in at the same place, but we're doing a similar thing right here where we're changing slightly some parking, adding, and then creating that same sort of entry plaza. Part of that is it's curbed. It gets, we heard you all say that a lot, especially at Crockett where it's not too safe, because kids are running around in this parking lot, vehicles are moving around, but you have this sort of entry point right here, and that'll be gated right there. And then there's also circulation to get down to the lower portion right off of that entry plaza as well.
So
but the idea here, I'm sorry?
Sidewalk will go all the way down to where the steps are now.
Here, yes. And then the idea is, that promenade idea, the idea is that people come in here and they're on this higher level, with the way the grade is at Boone, and then there's steps and handicap ramps that can get people down to that lower plaza, right? And then it's all handicap accessible from there.
Right there.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good overview. You see the ramp kind of in the foreground and then sort of the steps down. So,
So you'll enter, moving with this one, you'll enter up on the upper end, not the lower end, like we do now.
you can enter both,
Okay.
but I think where we're really pushing that is that you know, and it's where all that parking is right at the top too. So you just come in on that upper level, and that would be, as we continue to build out phases, you know, that would be, I think, become the main entry there, ticketing. So.
The only one thing that I see is gonna be a problem is softball restrooms. Cause that's where they use that concession stand.
We may have put more parties out there for.
I mean, that's
Season.
a possibility.
They may have to go up to
Concession
baseball
stand
for this,
I mean,
this season.
How far is the baseball restrooms from the softball field?
all the way
Well,
Is
down.
that the closest
It's all
one?
way-
Full length to the football
Full
field
length of football field, plus.
Could we put some porta potties out there just for the season?
I'm sure we could
I mean, is that,
be more, probably more access than they have now. Is it too far to walk?
It's the whole length of the football field, plus.
I'd say, you know, some would agree would be if they really were involved.
Yeah, you got a code red.
I'm just
Handicap,
I'm just thinking like
handicap.
Grandview.
Older
the
folk.
stands, and then you walk to the concession stand.
Grandma-
You don't want to have access to go.
grandma and grandpa?
But no.
And of course, the contractor's gonna have porta potties out there anyways, I'm sure some. I mean,
We're gonna have to have something we can manage for.
Yeah, we can cross that bridge when we get there.
Sure.
Looking forward to it.
I think it looks wonderful, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Is, the lights are in the field house at Crockett that controls the lights, so that concession stand has no lights or nothing in it.
That's right, as far as.
The lights is at the field house for Crockett, where you turn them on.
The controls. Yeah, and I know Harold, our electrical engineer, we were just talking about that just a few days ago, and he was, you know, because I was trying to knit my demolition spec into kind of what he's got on his drawings and make sure, you know, we're good and coordinated and not contradicted, but he had language already in his drawing. You know, I think maybe I never really reported out, but, and I know Mr. Boyd and Dr. Adams know this from some conversations, but I always had a little bit of concern with the Musco lighting. We're moving them behind the bleachers. So there's always that little bit of concern about, well, it's not exactly where it was. Is there a concern like with light spread, with lumens, you know, the amount of light that hits the field? But, you know, Harold's done a really good job of coordinating with Musco, been talking with them a lot, and he said they have absolutely no problem with that, you know. So, you know, and I've got language in there about, you know, that is the one part in the demolition spec, you know, everything else, you know, is pretty much structural demolition. They're just knocking it down. But, you know, they know for the documents that they've got to be very careful to remove. We do have to come up with a storage, you know, where they're going to be stored in the meantime, because that.
Yeah, because Boone's is on the side of the stadium. On one side, it's behind the.
You talking about the controls? Well, I mean, there are the controls, and we have to store that, you know, obviously, but just the light itself, you know, the actual lights. So we need to. That's something I think we can talk about in the pre-bid meeting, and then also we can get it in an addendum, you know, about, because, you know, it's language is in there that they need to take it down and turn it over to the owner for storage, but we need to tell them where to put it and keep it safe and damn, not let
I'm
it
looking forward
damage.
to this.
Yeah. Thank you, Todd. Paul, I appreciate y'all working so hard. Thank you. Also explaining everything when it doesn't, we don't understand, so thank y'all.
Well,
very
we
much.
appreciate you all. Again, it's been a really fun project. I mean, I told y'all before, I'm an architecture nerd, but I like sports a lot too. So it's just kind of the intersection of the stuff that I like.
Well, say that this time next year.
Yeah.
May we make a copy of this?
I'm sorry?
May we make a copy?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'd like to have, that's what I asked if I could get a copy of it.
Just remember the point that you all astutely pointed out about the ramp coming out in front of that branding wall, you're just gonna have to explain that to people. That's up. Well, yeah, we'll clean up those renderings and get that accurately.
It's done on the drawings, just not.
I mean, it's exactly like that, it's just the ramp doesn't do that, and it's not as long now, so.
I just wanted to clarify, because I wanted to make sure before we move forward.
Absolutely. Excellent question, excellent point.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you all.
You're welcome.
You know, a lot of times we work on projects,
I have to stop.
they take a long time to materialize. I think the good thing about the schedule with this one is we get, it's not exactly instant gratification, but you know, if all goes as planned, it'll.
Well, I'm sure when they built 50 years ago, they didn't think it was gonna be here 50 years. We're already saying this is gonna be here for a long time, you know what I'm saying? But it's something we're all gonna be proud of, the community's gonna be proud of. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, yeah. I appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is, can I get a recommendation for consideration of meeting agenda, please? Second.
I got an amendment.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
We don't we strike 11F and 11H off the agenda. One's the Westview track, which we already said that we wanted to wait to find out more information. And the other was vehicles, where Jerry told us that he wasn't ready to make any recommendation on that, so just to strike them off the agenda.
Did we not get no information about the track?
We do not have information about the track. We do have information about the vehicle.
I did see some information on the vehicle, if you still want to try it. I don't know, I didn't look at it real close, but there is some with
I thought
pricing.
you
If you want to
wanted to
discuss it, we were able, because when Dr. Adams was able to get information on the state bid. So if you would like to discuss it.
We'll just leave it on there. Then can we just strike 11F off the agenda? That's my amendment.
You need a second on the amendment? Oh, second.
Discussion.
So my understanding was, when we finished with our workshop, that Westview's playground was next, and we were gonna try to address that when we addressed the playground. Because there were so many complications with that, and there's something we might have to figure out at school or whatever. That was my understanding when we left the table last time. Is that
That's pretty.
correct? Is that what?
I thought we were waiting to find out about the floor.
The biggest thing was the choice.
We have several
that
things
there's
about
for us
Westview that
That,
was.
well, yes, that was a piece of it too, but I just, but I thought they were next in line, and that's kind of what we said, we would deal with that in the whole scope of work, because they were the only one left. And we had been spending about 300,000, and that would give us an option.
Yeah, and the reason why I said is because each floor fixed, and then we'll talk about the other. That's what.
So, okay, I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page there.
Okay. Any more discussion on the amendment? Jeffrey, can we vote on that amendment, please?
Sorry, Jim.
All right, now can we get a motion for the consideration of meeting agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Let's vote. Thank you. Next, can I get a recommendation on approval of meeting minutes?
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented. Second.
Discussion. Let's vote, please. Thank you. Next is announcements. Mr. Boyd.
Just for awareness, next week is the annual Tennessee Organization of School Superintendents and Tennessee Department of Ed Conference in Gatlinburg. I'll be there all but the last day. I have to come back on the 13th. Prior to that, to attend the budget meeting. So I'll be coming back Tuesday night. Next is County Commission budget meeting is September 13th, 9 a.m. Today's the U passed the items we had on the agenda, which included the budget amendment for the purchase of the property adjacent to grade, and also the playground request to utilize the educational capital funds for the proposed playground upgrades for Sulphur Springs and Fall Branch. That was approved to move on to budget. So those two items will be on that agenda for their consideration. Again, I tried to share in weekly updates the schedule for school visits, and you can see the ones that are on the front end of the schedule. September 19th, the Sulphur Springs and Fall Branch. 22nd is Asbury, Boots Creek. 26th, Jonesboro, the Jonesboro School. And then just a reminder, we have a board workshop scheduled for September 19th. And then the County Commission falls on the next Monday, the 25th. And because of fall break, we've scheduled the October meeting to be September 28th. Fall breaks the 2nd through the 6th of October. Yes, sir.
I just asked that the board workshop, if they could be moved a day or two, it would help me out tremendously. I don't return on the 19th till later on, but I understand if I'm the only one that can't make it on the 19th. If that's a problem, that's fine, but I just cannot attend that workshop. I know it's the same day as you're doing a board visit, so it may just make sense to do it that day. But I just want to say that.
Anybody else?
Well, I've kinda already got it planned, so I mean, that's what we have agreed on. I didn't know this. Where were you going?
From DC, I'll come back late night,
What you're driving back that night?
flying back in.
Oh, flying back?
That's okay, go ahead.
Okay. I did want to ask on our visits, school visits, can we somehow incorporate the maintenance department in the bus garage again this year? Or is it already on our schedule? Is that something we can add?
I mean, the one that makes the most sense would be the junk program.
Right.
We can just incorporate that into the junk program business.
Okay, sounds good. All right, next is Mr. Boyd's report.
Just several items that you see there, just for public record, for board awareness. Enrollment update, our enrollment was slightly up from the previous year. We've got taken care of most of our class sizes as far as what were red flags as far as compliance issues. The rest of field trip reports, maintenance reports, monthly financials that Mr. Hill went over with everyone at the workshop, and then continued with our monthly grant reporting. Really, that was nothing that I don't think is there that wasn't presented at the workshop.
All right, next, if I get a recommendation for consideration of consent agenda.
Make the motion that we consider the consent agenda approval.
Discussion. Can we vote, Jennifer, please? Thank you.
Yes, I got it. All three.
Thank you. All right, next is our discussion and presentations. Mr. Boyd, you want to start with that one, please, on our, I think Mr. Hale had a couple of or one or two purchase orders, is that correct, that we needed to add?
There was, I think, 2 that were added since the last meeting.
This purchase order, actually, the amount doesn't require board action, but since it's on there, presented to the board for action. This is the pre-ACT assessment costs that you see. If you look at the actual purchase order, it lists the various schools and numbers of students. This protest.
Reason that's on there is there was other purchase orders that was the same exact thing, same exact purchase.
Multiple purchase
There's multiple
orders,
purchase
same
orders, and when you
company for
combine those, it's over 10,000.
Okay, thanks, sir. That item 11A.
That was so long. That one came in before I sent out the agenda, so that's why.
Just requesting approval by the board.
We have a recommendation.
I move for approval.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Move for approval of purchase order 9583.
Discussion? Vote please, Jeff. Thank you. Next is approval of our budget amendment.
As mentioned, this was the item that was on the U agenda, but it does require formal board approval for the board side of the budget amendment.
Mr. Campbell?
I'll make the motion to move the unassigned fund balance to increase it. That is, can you read the line number? Would that be easy to read?
Okay, are you saying, I'm sorry.
There's 2 line numbers on my paper.
Okay.
In the summary, if
So
you,
if I read the summary, it's the total of,
Yeah, it takes it to 9.5 million. I'm pulling that up right now.
okay,
So one's the expense side of the budget. The one that's the Q account is on the revenue side of the budget. Even though it's not revenue, you're using fund balance to add to the revenue,
correct?
which balances, that's how you're balancing the budget, basically. Your revenue has to balance the expenses, so the fund balance in that Q account's how you're balancing the budget, so it takes it to 9.5 million.
So I move for approval of the budget amendment.
So this discussion. Mr. Foster. Let's vote please, Jennifer. Thank you. Mr. Boyd, approval of the Netco purchasing contract.
yes, sir, there was discussion at the workshop, just questions about what the purchasing consortium is in the contract, $132,000. Ms. Hugh has provided additional details on that, and she's also here to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. Flanker.
I understood the benefits and the things, the reason why. I guess my biggest question I wasn't clear about asking is we're pretty much throwing $132,000 worth of credit to this Netco so we can purchase $132,000 worth of stuff.
Not exactly. Is the spreadsheet available? Okay, can you make it where they can see it?
Maybe try 75 or 30.
Well, I can try. Is that amazing or?
That's a little too small. They won't be able to see the entire
You
spreadsheet.
can see it back here. Well, there's like more off the screen. Oh.
I mean, we can kind of scroll if we need to.
Okay, if you can go down to the USDA value portion, it is kind of this third block. And over to the left, it'll say USDA value per pound.
How many in there?
Can you move the scroller as far over to the left?
To the left?
Yeah, so that we can see. I think you might have went to the top. Oh, they're at the top? Okay, scroll down. Keep going. It's a big spreadsheet. Okay, wait. Go back up. I think that might have been it. Right there. USDA. Okay, now if you go all the way to the right, as far as you can on that spreadsheet, that portion of the spreadsheet, you'll see that 171,000. So that is a portion of our USDA. The USDA gives us an amount, and then we choose to process that or bring goods in. So it's raw materials. I think ours was a 345,000 in total from the USDA government, and that's just money. And so if you see on that spreadsheet, then we take that money and break it down into turkey sticks. So then we have to send that to Jenny O, that much of that product to be processed into those different products. And if you scroll on back, you'll see there's pork, there's beef, there's cheese with Land O'Lakes, there's chicken with Gold Creek, there's Don Lee hamburger. So we look at how much we use and from a velocity report, and then we process it into the products that we want in our schools from what the bidder has, whatever bidder won and what products they offer.
So,
go ahead.
no, I mean, that was I just wanted to make sure, because before, when we looked at that at the workshop, it just said $172, like to be and it still says that on that first sheet. And so I just wondered if we got 172,000, which that's the way it's broke down here.
That's not what that is. Okay, so that is that's some of the amount of money that we got from the USDA, and that's what we're choosing to process it into. And then we have a fee associated with that to pay the processors for obviously their overhead, their labor, and et cetera, to process it from raw goods. So if we send them chicken to Gold Creek, they're gonna take a whole chicken and they're gonna make some of it into chicken patties and some of it into chicken tenders, et cetera, et cetera. So that again was $345,000 worth of goods. And then we processed it. You know, we put some in what we call DOD, which is a fresh fruit and vegetable program where we get that. And then some of it gets processed into potatoes and stuff, and it's not on this commodity report. So the full grand 345,000 is all mixed into different things. So then we have to pay the vendors, the processors, their fee. And then we only pay $2.33 to have it shipped from them to us. Does that make enough sense? Okay.
So the 132,000, is that what we're just giving this company to process it?
Well, we pay Netco as a cooperative. All 15 county districts, they have a certain fee associated with how much goods they processed. So everyone's is different. Some are higher, some are less. And we pay Netco, and Netco cuts the checks out of Johnson City Schools. Their bookkeeper does that, and that's all audited out of there by Blackburn Children's District.
So really what we know you're doing a good thing here. We just don't understand for myself.
Okay.
Netco's, what are we paying them for? Is this to
Okay,
be a
so-
member of the cooperative?
Well, there's
Is
a
that the
membership fee. There is
The
a membership
132 is the membership fee
No,
for that?
and I have the invoices for that. So it's actually 263,000, a little over that. It is 6 payments of 43,860. That is the processing fees. Okay, and then there is an additional membership fee, and it's based on how many meals you served, and it's 0.0225 times however many lunches you served for 21-22, and then that $18,988 goes to be a member, and then also pays the district coordinator, and also some of that goes to the bookkeeper because she handles the finances for the cooperative center. Yeah.
The membership fee is $18,000.
So I guess our thing is we're just trying to understand what $132,000
So then when we
is paid for.
go to buy the 200 cases worth of hamburger that we processed, if you want to look in detail of how much we processed, it's only $2.33 for us to buy that from Gordon's because they used our raw product and we're paying the fee to have them processed. So we're only paying $2.33, whereas when we were in the Sam's Cooperative 2 years prior to this, I was paying about $70 for a case of hamburger beef.
So is this just to feed a Netco, like I say, to be in that cooperative?
The 18,000 is.
But the 132, that's what I don't understand.
It's actually 263,000, and it's 6 payments of a little over 43,000 that is sent to the processors so that they will process our goods into our raw products into.
So Kaylin, is it fair to say you're almost like you're buying meat, like and they're processing the meat into hamburgers for you?
Well, I mean, it's an amount of money, it's $364,000 for the last year that the USDA gives us in money to do what we want with. And we had it processed into beef, the products that you see.
I have a purchasing order in front of me.
Okay.
It has $132,000 on it.
Mm-hmm.
It says it's to Netco.
Mm-hmm.
What is that specifically for?
And there's actually 2 POs that are tied to paying the full amounts that we've just discussed. One I think is 170 and one is the 132 to cover the 263,000 plus the 18,000. And they based one of those off of the previous year, and it wasn't enough because we got much more commodities, so we have a much larger processing fee because we fed more kids. We got a higher amount from the USDA for commodity processing, so obviously our processing fees are higher. Our case delivery count did go up to $2.33. It was $1.97, I believe, when I joined. So there were some factors there that increased that. So originally the PO was based off, because you have to do it before we had all this settled. I think the 170 was based off of last year, and then they realized that wasn't going to cover it, and they made the 132. And they rounded up for round.
So this is just a portion of the 163. And it is a food processing fee. So they're actually literally, you purchase food, send it to them, and they're processing it for you.
We don't purchase the food. The food is in the form of money from the USDA. And the USDA is going to send nothing comes to us and nothing's processed. We're taking that amount of money that the USDA is saying we have in raw goods and that they can send to processors if we bid it out, and they send it to the processors and send it to us from Gordon's. Does that make sense?
I think the confusion is it says processing fees. When we think of processing fees, we're thinking of paperwork or, like you run a credit card, it's a processing fee. But this is actually a food processing where they're actually literally taking your food and making it into something.
Other than $18,000.
Other than $18,000, which is the membership. So the membership part is the only thing that we're kind of out of. The rest of it, we're paying for a service.
Okay, and so the membership fee gives us this. She also does all the bidding out to the processors, our indirect bid for products such as, cereal and Pop-Tarts that aren't on commodities, et cetera.
But in my mind, we're paying $132,000 for a membership.
Oh, no, that's not correct.
Mr. Travis.
I know the federal government gives you quirky things and steps to follow.
Yeah.
Basically, and I don't know if you can do this, you're saving money by doing this co-op. Do you know how much the savings is?
I don't. I've not done an analysis, but Granger County was the last county to join, I think back in 2018-19, and they did an analysis and it saved Granger County $90,000. But no, the analysis, I haven't done that.
So you're saving money and it's giving you buying power, basically.
Yeah, and it's more than just, obviously, there's 15 counties, you can see. We're gonna get a much better deal, and it's renowned in the, in the industry, Netco is, at a national level. But obviously 15 counties together is gonna be a lot more powerful than Washington County on their own.
You're obviously doing something right, because I know for a fact the federal government doesn't make anything easier.
Right.
That's what I was gonna ask, sort of, is, duh question, if you will. Is it cheaper doing this than it would be just to buy chicken patties?
Yes. So we were in a cooperative, just to kind of give you an analysis. We processed before by ourselves, and that is a heavy fleet. But and then we went to a Sam's cooperative based out of Virginia, but they didn't process commodities. They only were a buying group that got us better deals on Pop-Tarts and what we call indirect items. And we were paying $10 more per case being in that cooperative than I'm paying right now, and that was 2 years ago, so I'm sure that's went up.
Is it hard to do an analysis on this to find out what we're saving? So we'll know, we're able to tell our community members if anybody asks that, hey, because of this, we're saving this much money?
I can do some of that. You have to keep in mind though that what I would be comparing it to would be 2 years ago, which was Sam's.
Totally.
And we didn't process commodities, so I don't really have a baseline for that.
Okay. As
well as obviously Sam's cooperative, the data that I have from them is 2 years old, and there's been a 20% inflation on food. So I could do the best that I could, but it's a moving target.
Yeah. I don't want you just
go
spin
up.
wheels if it's not,
Yeah.
I don't want it to. It's not busy work. I don't want to do that. I just actually want to know. So if we're not able to do that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at my Sam's information that I had, the order guide that I had, and we're still paying less than what they were paying 2 years ago. And so I know that it's a substantial savings, but I don't know what their bid is right now or what they're paying for certain items.
We appreciate what you do.
Yeah.
Mr. Reynolds?
You could just, and I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I know you do a wonderful job
Thank
at
you.
what you do, and I'm not doubting it. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
Sure.
Are we buying goods with this money, or is this just to be in the cooperative?
Okay.
That's what I don't understand. Are we buying a certain amount of goods for that goes through the cooperative for processing? I just don't understand the
We are
concept.
taking a raw amount of money.
Yes.
And I'm saying that I want to put, out of that 345,000, I'm saying I want to put 10,000 into having hamburger beef made into hamburger patties, right?
Right.
Okay, so the USDA takes, or I take that money out of that big allotment that the USDA is giving our county for how many meals we've served. And I'm saying with $10,000 of that $345,000, will you make me 200 cases of beef patty? And then I'm paying that Don Lee Farms to process it into ground beef. And I think it was like $2,000 is what I pay them. But then when I go to order it, keep in mind it only costs me $2.33. Whereas if I was buying it back with the Sam's cooperative or by myself and I didn't have a processing fee, it'd be about $70 per case, sorry.
Okay.
So is that
A little bit.
making it sense?
We're basically buying a discount.
I don't have a raw product, and it's not told, they don't tell me you have so much beef. They give me an amount of money.
Mhm.
And then,
By going through the cooperative, you're able to buy cheaper. But that's just, my question is what the 132,000 gets you. And I know you know.
it gets it
I'm
processed.
sorry.
It gets a raw good processed into a usable product.
So you're ordering off of a menu with this money saying, I want so much of this, I want so much of this, I want so much of this, all that's costing different amounts, and they make it from the ground up, basically.
Yes.
So if you want hamburger patties, they're finding your hamburger and making it into patty form and shipping you how many you want. If you want turkey wings or whatever you're doing, turkey sticks, you're saying, this is how much I want, ship it to me. They're making it from fresh turkey into turkey sticks and shipping you 70 cases if that's what you
Yeah,
want.
it's raw birds
Right.
and stuff, yeah,
Right,
and it's
right.
being processed into
Okay.
goods. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but God, yeah. But you know, the vendors have to win the bid
Right.
for it to be processed.
Mr. Trevor.
Are they better food out there?
Is there better food out there?
Yes, I'm standing there watching these kids eating.
I had some people from Crockett tell me the barbecue was delicious today, no?
I'm watching
Did you have a
kids-
chance to try it?
I'm watching kids taking their lunch and dumping it in the trash. I'm having kids tell me that it's not as good as what it was last year. I'm asking, I'm just
Same
asking.
vendor.
Because if a youngin' ain't eating, it ain't no
I've
good.
got a
ain't
question, if, when we do our school visits.
I'm ready to buy
Will we
it.
be there for lunch at any time? I mean, the
We can be.
The high schools.
Is on.
Was there a specific product that you had
Just-
a review on?
Just,
We had local watermelons from a local farmer. Were they throwing those away? Just the.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm just knowing what I've had kids come and tell me. It's helped me say, we don't like the food. It's not as good.
That they didn't tell you which food item? Just all
They
of
didn't
it?
tell me. They didn't tell me what was there, but
We'll
now,
take a 5-minute recess so she can give me a one-on-one them course. I mean, I don't wanna waste everybody's time with a bunch of questions, but
But yeah,
can we take a 5-minute
we can,
recess?
that's, when.
well, I mean, I'm just, if,
Well, what do y'all think
if I
about-
could spend more money to buy better food, better tasting food, come and ask us for money and we'll come up with it some way to purchase better food.
So I have an answer for that. Every product that we use is the same stuff you're buying in the stores.
No.
It is, except for the fact that it's low sodium and whole grain, and that changes the flavor. But the vendors are, you can buy Gold Creek chicken in your freezer section. Don Lee is in your freezer section. Our cheese is Land O'Lakes. I mean, if it's not the best tasting, that would be a USDA policy, because I can't add salt, butter, or other flavorings to it because it has to meet the nutritional guidelines.
Didn't that change under
That's
the,
the
Yes,
salt
that's
is where
the
the
problem.
difference is.
didn't that change under the Obama administration? They
Yes.
It did change several years ago, and it's gotten stricter under every other administration, so it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
meeting back to order. Okay, after Ms. Caitlin's explanation, do we have a recommendation on approval of Petco purchasing?
I'd like to move that we approve item 11C.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Discussion?
Thank you.
Let's vote, please, Jennifer. Thank you. I would like to add to our school visit to Dana Boone and Davy Crockett that we eat breakfast and lunch there. Nothing special, just whatever they're having. Yes. Everyone in agreement to that?
Yes. Won't be there.
And you can arrange it, I'm sure, to Mr. Boyd.
Yes, sir.
I figured you
think I
could.
know people.
All right, next is approval of the revised Davy Crockett Security Vestibule Project. Do you have a recommendation?
Recommend for approval. That's it.
Discussion?
Glad they caught this ahead of time.
Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Cody Decker. Motion carries.
Thank you.
So we're not losing any, there's no classrooms that we're losing in this area now.
Actually, with this redesign, yeah, it just
It's
brought back
actually
some classroom space.
Right, that's what I thought. I was
Intended
just,
to be used previously.
I think it's great.
Okay, next is approval to authorize the structural engineer to perform a complete assessment of the Westview Elementary structural floor to determine the required repair. We have a recommendation.
Go ahead. I authorize the structural engineer to come in and tell us what they find out at the floor, Westview Elementary.
Second.
Second, we have any more discussion? Let's vote, Jennifer, please.
Cody Decker.
So we do have somebody that's coming that we know to do this, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, Mr. Wilson has done an assessment. His plan, I talked to him after the workshop, his plan is to get bid documents together so that you can approve that. Because until we get somebody willing to bid on it, they'll come out at a pre-bid meeting and go through it, and we'll get a better understanding of exactly what they're going to propose. Then if we bid it out, you can accept it or not, what the bids are.
Thank you.
Belly full of concrete.
F was removed. G, future of the house located on property purchased by the Board of Education adjacent to Gray Elementary. We discussed that in our workshop. Got approval through the Hugh committees, go through budget yet and full commission, but tentatively, do we want to just table that until we close on it? Or what y'all recommend, or what y'all want to do?
I'd like to push it off till we close on it.
Is that good for everybody till we close? All right. All right, next is our FY '24 vehicle purchase request, Mr. Boyd.
So as I mentioned, at the time, but, Dr. Adams has worked with available information, so.
No, it's that they had their own form, sorry.
Wrong one?
Yeah.
Okay.
To identify the cost that we didn't have in the workshop.
We were managed to get quotes on the trucks. The vans that we need to purchase, that bid process will not open up until possibly Monday. So you can see we need one 1,500 pickup truck. It's a crew cab. That's $44,000. We need two 1,500 pickup trucks that are regular cabs. They're $42,000 a piece for a total of $84,779. We need one 2,500 pickup crew cab, and that's $45,000, and for a total amount of $174,211.80. And the 2,500 crew cab pickup for technology, you've already approved that once. We tried to get it, and they turned it back to us and said they couldn't fulfill it. So we're bringing it back to try to purchase it this time. Then again, the vans that we need, those, again, that they don't think that they'll get pricing on that until possibly Monday. So I'll do my best to bring it back to the next workshop if it's available.
Jared, just curious, what's a homeless department?
That is a grant that Tawana has worked on where homeless families, we'll send a van with the driver, and if they need to go from their house, wherever they're living, to school, it helps alleviate some stress on the transportation, like the bus, send a bus after these folks, we can send a van instead. It's part of her, one of her grants.
We do not have a department. It is part of the McKinney-Vento efforts, federal efforts for homeless, to serve homeless families or students, homeless families. The money would be, the grant would be for a van to address the needs to serve that population. You see if you go back up, please, Carol, the CTE vans right there, the pricing not available list. The vans for CTE, the kit there is as the, the Boots Creek TCAT annex or the TCAT campus opens up, that would be used instead of buses for students from the high school campuses to the TCAT center at Boots Creek.
You'd have a driver pull.
And plus the fact is we could actually use, the qualifications to drive these vans are not like the qualifications to drive the bus. Ms. Walters.
So the pricing that's not available, we won't move probably on that until we get that, is that correct? Okay.
No, we certainly, now that we have the pricing on those items above this line, I would ask the board to consider, but I'm not gonna ask you to consider and say, approve these and then we'll purchase them whenever we get the price.
Dr. Adams, how long turnaround from the time we purchased? I know last year we did this and it was a year before we get them.
Some of them we didn't get at all.
Right.
My understanding, from the lady that Lynn Archer talked to for the trucks, 2 of them they're holding for us, and the other 2 they'll have to go get them built. And then once that happens, my understanding is the vans we tried to buy last year, the year before, UT swooped in. They needed like 50, and so they got 50, and we didn't get any. So it just kind of depends. It's a supply and demand.
Mr. Flynn.
Brad, is this this is in our budget so much for new vehicles, correct?
Yeah, you have a total for the year of just under $525,000 dedicated, whether it be vehicles, whether it be purchase of the Gator vehicles. I mean, that's it. That's what's in there.
You said 500?
Just under 525,000.
And 3 of those vans will be paid for by grant monies.
Okay.
Not the ones shown, the ones that we don't have pricing for.
Right.
Yeah, so any that are grant funded, I think there's 2, I'd have to look at that again, that's, there's a grant, 2 or 3 that a grant can cover. So that would not come out of that 525,000.
Mr. Riddle.
Jared, pricing on this, where does that come from? Is that a state?
It's a state contract. It's a dealership in Murfreesboro, I believe, and they have the state contract for vans. And I actually reached out to some other school systems to see that I heard had bid out trucks and vans, and they didn't receive any bids from dealerships because they're in the same boat as everybody else. They can't get them, so they didn't bother to bid.
Let me just update you on what, if we run into that scenario. Let's say we run into a scenario where the state contract can't get us the vehicles. No, we put it out for bid by state law, and no dealer will bid on the vehicles. In that case, the auditors have told me that we can then do 3 price quotes and buy a vehicle. But we have to have documentation of all the other.
Ms. Walters.
Dr. Adams, are any of these ones that we put on hold from last year? I think we didn't buy some last year because they weren't high enough mileage or something. Are any of these that?
The 2500 is one we tried to buy last year, and they turned it back to us. We actually put a PO out for it, and then they called us back and canceled the order. Okay. For the vans, I think maybe 1 or 2 of those are, I think the technology van is one that we are waiting on. I think there were 2 of those that we tried to get the higher roof, and they kicked it back to us. They canceled the order.
Ms. Buchanan.
What's the deadline for these vans for the CTE program. So when will they open, when will we need them?
I'm sorry, Mr. Boyd,
No, I was just gonna say their start as far as when they wanted to actually have that facility operational has been delayed somewhat with construction. Not much, but, so there's still, the students that are enrolled in courses that eventually meet they're participating at their home school in the high school.
I
So
understand.
it'll be this fall sometime.
I think the grant monies have to be expended by
Until
June
then,
30th.
we just have to have other options. We'll have to use buses or we'll have to use.
What I was saying is if it's grant money and we have to buy these passengers, can we start the process for what Brad's talking about with the bids?
Well, we're not proposing to bid them out, we're proposing to buy them off of the state.
We just don't have pricing.
We don't have this pricing for those names.
Certainly, if we can get them through the state contract, that pricing's always better and it's much more efficient, but if they're not available,
We could do the bid process.
then we would, yeah.
Any recommendation on the vehicle purchase?
Can we purchase leftovers or 22 models or something like that, or something that might have 10,000 miles on it? Are they anything
If it's a
against-
used vehicle, we have to have.
like a rental place leasing?
It would be looked at as a used vehicle, so we
Okay.
just have to have like the NADA or Kelly Blue Book and print out the value and be within 5%. We can't go 5% above, or we can't go 5% above what the value with the national register like Kelly Blue Book is. That route we could go if we can find it.
Okay. I'm just sitting here looking online
Yep.
and find something with 5,000 or 10,000 miles on it for 35, 40,000.
Mr. Riddle?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the vehicle purchases for 174, 211, 80.
Motion, we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Flamer?
I'm just going to throw this out here, and I don't mean nothing bad by this, but I'm going to vote no just because we spent $1 million that we didn't have last month. That wasn't, we didn't have, that wasn't budgeted. And I just think the vehicle purchases, we could save some money if we didn't, we could look towards the end of the year, if we didn't spend any more, then we could do it. I know it's going to be harder to get them, but that's the reason for my no vote.
I'm having a hard time, Chad, replacing one that's got 150 or 146,000 miles on it. I can swallow the 94 250 with 230. I mean, yeah, it's got some age on it, but I'm just having there's a 208 with 152.
Mr. Wallace?
Dr. Adams, are there any one of these that are given a lot of trouble? I mean,
My conversations with Mr. Roberts at the Transportation Department is the ones that we're trying to replace are problematic. They do a great job. They keep off just about all our vehicles on the road, but when you're calling out to have to go repair them all the time, or they're leaking lots of oil and you're doing a lot of repairs, we wouldn't be asking for them if we didn't feel we needed them. So,
but they are able to get them back running, and so far.
to a degree, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? All right, let's vote, please, Jennifer. I'm sorry. Wait, make a motion to purchase the 3 vehicles.
And then if you can.
Yes, we can, second.
Carries with 3 noes.
Thank you. Next is the purchase request for a John Deere Gator, the TX. I think we discussed that. Mr. Ward, I'll let you continue on it if you would, please.
Additional information, I discussed some other options. We did a comparison. We looked at some options online, just various used items. One is a new item that's actually at Lowe's, a brand that you see there, Axis, at Lowe's. You see the price there. What they have, typically used preferred is the Gator model, the John Deere. You see the price there. It is over $10,000. But it also comes with, a service center as far as it's needed for the John Deere. All the others, we looked online, individuals selling, what might be a viable alternative under $10,000. All of them are used that we there's many out there. We just tried to highlight some that looked like they were possibly in reasonable condition. You can see there the list and the prices for each one of those.
Jerry, there ain't no way that they would come down to $47. Just asking.
I honestly, Logan got that quote from them, and again, that specific Gator, they're not promising it until December.
Okay.
And,
Is that something we need before that, to the best of my memory?
yeah, I mean, right now, we're putting one on a trailer and driving it from point A to point B.
Any recommendation from the board?
I make a motion, we buy the new John Deere Gator for $10,047.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Discussion. Any type of delivery date on that, Jerry?
On the Gator, it is
Gator.
hopefully no later than mid-December, and we'll just make do with what we've got.
We can do,
Well, I mean, it puts a ton of strain on them to get it again from point A to point B, but I think with some strategic planning, maybe at the end of the day, we move it to where we're going to need it for the next day, probably could help alleviate some of those issues.
Ms. Walter?
I think the $2,000 for buying the John Deere is worth it, because if you buy one from Lowe's, you have no service center.
That's what Keith, if you remember, that's what Keith was saying.
Yeah, I think it's-
Workshop.
Who's this through? Meade?
Meade, what I said.
I think it's me.
Meade, Johnson City?
May come down 2,000 already.
No, Whitney I asked Whitney, it was the same price last time.
Okay. Well, it's 12,000.
Well, that's a good buy, because right here I'm looking at them, they're $10.99, $10.5, $11.9, $12.1.
We anticipate the price may go up a little bit, so the purchase order price we're looking at is just to make sure we can get it under, I think we put 13,000. We're pretty confident it'll stay underneath 11, but we didn't want to have to bring it back for you to approve an extra $100.
What was the motion for $10,047?
34 cents, yeah.
Well, what I'm seeing here, Dr. Adams, is we have this quote, 30 days, good for 30 days. Why would it go up?
According to what the person that Logan talked to said, that they'll save that quote, but if the price goes up by the time they deliver, we may be responsible for it, but I mean, I have to check more into that.
Yeah.
I think call Charlie Meade. Right now, Bill's big.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on the motion? Let's vote, Jennifer, please. Thank you. Next is our policy approval. Any recommendation?
As we discussed in the workshop, a lot of these are aligning with the updated language based on law, recommended changes based on the changes in law and also updates by TSBA. I request your consideration.
Mr. Twain.
I make a motion, we waive first reading and pass on the second reading on policy 6.304, 1.902, 1.904, 1.900, 1.906, 1.901, 903, 905, or 702.
Second.
Discussion? Let's vote, Jennifer, please. Thank you. Our additional items for our approval, Mr. Boyd.
This item is a late add, as we have shared, we put the portables at grade on Gov Deals, and there was a winning bidder. He defaulted on the timeline, the necessary timeline to come pick the units up. Money was refunded. We learned that he also then, when he won the bid on Gov Deals, he put the portables on another bid site and proceeded to try to sell them. And we had a church that during that time bought one of the portables, a church you can see there. They thought they bought it and they were prepared to use it, and then found out that the guy didn't actually own them. So we just felt like their trouble, and for what he purchased for them off of Gov Deals, he charged that church more money, quite a bit, and he purchased all of the portables. At least he thought he did until he defaulted. So this is just one portable at grade, and we just felt like, the process they went through was the right thing to do, was to enable them at the cost they would have to, of course, bear all costs of moving and relocating the units.
Mr. Frank.
I make a motion, we donate one of the portables to the Alcoholics Holiness Church.
I second.
Discussion. Could they use more than one?
I think that question was asked, they said no, that's the one they need and want.
They paid that guy $1,000 for the one. He bought all four for $550. And then they paid a deposit a non-refundable deposit to a moving company of, I think, $10,000 to get it moved. And he didn't tell them until the day before their moving date was. So they called me very angry. Yeah. But they don't need one. They're going to use it as a fellowship hall. They're a church of about 50 people, I believe the pastor said.
Okay. Any more discussion? Let's vote, Jennifer, please.
30 seconds.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Boyd, two purchase orders I think that Mr. Hill needed to add.
Yes, sir, thank you. This one, item 12B is the OAS bullying prevention program materials and training for staff. We're using ESSER $3 in the amount of $72,579. And I request your consideration.
So move.
We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion.
Who's being trained? Who will be trained?
It'll be our educators and mainly people that will be involved. Counselors, I'm sure, will be involved. And just to clarify, it's listed as, it's bullying prevention, so it's a curriculum, it's an approach. OBEAS is it's a nationally known platform or program.
I just wondering if it was for all staff or just counselors or counselors administrators.
It'll be a train-to-trainer model, so eventually our people will also continue the training.
Any more discussion? Let's vote, Jennifer, please. Thank you. Mr. Boyd.
And this last item is also a continuation of services using ESSER 3 funds, contracting with, as you see, Frontier Health for school-based behavioral therapists for this school year. The amount of $120,000.
I make a motion that we approve this purchase order with Frontier Health Continuing Services.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Let's vote, please.
30 seconds.
Thank you. Okay, that's all I have. Keep in mind, September 19th is our next school visit, our first school visit, and September 22nd, 26th, and our workshop is also the 19th. So
We did earlier, but can I remind? Yeah, it was mentioned earlier, the call, special call meeting date for the bid would be October 9th.
Yeah, and also, I will not be here, I'll be out of town, so, Mr. Buchanan will be taking care of that meeting for us. Yes, sir, Ms. Walker.
I know Greg's along the same, but this meeting, September 1st, marked 1 year of us being on the board. And from me to you, I just want to say how grateful I am for you guys and how thankful I am to be serving with you.
Appreciate you both being here.
I can also say, in talking to other board members, some of the things that have been happening over these last couple of months, they've never experienced so many of them in such a short period of time. So we've gone through a lot.
Thank you all for your guidance.
Yeah, you brought us bad luck, but we still will.
I'll take all of that.
Okay, nothing else, meeting adjourned.